So as a student, I got involved in the anti-apartheid movement, where we were trying to force our Board of Regents to divest its holdings from the corporations that were doing business in South Africa. Through that experience, I got really politicized. I like to say it was my first involvement in politics, even though we weren't working on elections at all. We were dealing with corporate America. So that's how I got kind of started. And in addition, at the same time, parallel to, Jesse Jackson was running for president, seeking the Democratic Party's nomination for president in 1984 and then in 1988. And so I got involved there as a student organizer. You know, Jason, I like to say I learned a lot about life and about politics from Jesse Jackson in 84 and 88. I learned as a white person how to really put myself under the leadership and really understand racism. I put myself under the leadership of people of color and why racism affects everybody, including white people, negatively. I learned how to put myself under the leadership of women and understood the intersections of oppression as between race and gender and class. Because I already knew about class because it had been my life experience. I learned about Palestine. You know, I joked with the Reverend since then that he kind of spoiled me for politics because I thought that all elections were always going to be about real power and actually about building a movement to confront real power. But Jason, I learned another thing about politics. I learned that the Democratic Party presidential primary process is where progressive politics goes to die. Because every time progressives try to work within the Democratic Party, all the energy and the excitement of that process ends up getting built up and people are excited, and then the nomination comes around and they say, all right, you lost, shut up, get on the back of the bus and get on board with the corporatist militarist of our parties. And you know what? It happens to Republicans on the other end when they get excited about somebody like Ron Paul who's speaking truth to power that animates principled conservatives. And then they're told, all right, sit down, shut up, get on the Republican Party bus. Because the Republican Party bus and the Democratic Party bus are both part of the same corporate vehicle that is running us over a cliff and is going to destroy this country. The transnational corporate form is used by the elites to pit people whose interests are actually allied, but they pit us against each other and use ethnicity and race and you know, other issues that we may disagree on, abortion, yes or no, issues that the real ruling elites don't care one whit about.
Yeah, it's really like a divide and conquer where they finally chisel their own electorate, which is going to give them power.
Absolutely right, and that's and I'm glad we're talking about the false left-right dichotomy because it is false. The reality is there isn't a left-right divide. There is an up-down divide. The real minority in this country are not women. The real minority are not people of color. The real minority are the less than 1/2% who own every damn thing and control everything. Our real enemies are the ultra-rich, uber-elite banksters who have hijacked our country and our government and every institution. And they pit us against each other, and I've had enough. Ya basta.
Yeah, that's why we thought it was quite interesting that we're being pushed upon us this health program when it's like the FDA has already massively failed, the EPA has already massively failed, and those things are affecting our health, those failures. And that endorsement, like standardization of like pollution, essentially.
And now they've come out and say it's pretty much a bailout for the insurance companies. Yeah. That's what Kucinich and others have said.
There's no doubt that the current healthcare reform plan that's out there is nothing more than a corporate giveaway to the insurance corporations. Yeah. And you know what's not been said is that there is actually a way out of the healthcare crisis that I think that principled conservatives and principled liberals and radicals could agree with. We all agree we want to have access to our own doctors and nurses, and we want to make sure that the doctor-patient relationship is not controlled by government, right? Don't know a single liberal or a conservative who wants to see that happen. So why not have a system where you have a single payer model where you say, we're going to basically pool to make sure that costs are controlled and administered, but it's not a government managed system where each individual chooses which doctor you go to, but that the cost is going to make sure to be regulated through a governmental single payer model, so that health care is not managed, health care is not delivered, only health care costs are under that rubric.
The money.
The money.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's always about the money.
It's the key point. Always is.
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out that the Federal Reserve itself is not a part of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
It is a private bank that privately controls the U.S. money supply. It is perhaps one of the most profound, most perverse, and most least understood ways in which the ruling elite have a stranglehold around, well, I'll say our neck, but there are other body parts that they're holding too.
Yes.
They actually used the phraseology of the title of one of the very good resources out there, an animated film called Money as Debt. I think it's like 47 minutes or something, so we'll try and post that for viewers to check out.
Folks, if you haven't seen Money as Debt, go check it out. It will actually explain to you how the banking system works, what the historical origins were, and how it's working now today, and why, even as the Wall Street banksters and fraudsters literally destroyed the worldwide economy and the U.S. economy specifically to the tune of trillions of dollars of mismanagement, how somehow they were able to get bailed out and get billions of dollars of bonus compensation. If you think that that seems odd or you're outraged, see Money as Debt and you'll understand how
totally
they did it.
Criminal, absolutely criminal what these people are involved in doing that, stealing trillions of dollars in those ways. And then the people that really got stolen from, who are on the streets or other things like that, don't get anything.
The thing is, the Enron debacle, as horrific as it was, and it was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it usually is.
Yeah, and you know, too many people are either too afraid to confront the reality of the depth of the problem, or want to pretend like it doesn't exist, and that's a problem. I mean, unless we're willing to honestly talk about the truth as we see it, we'll never find our way out of this mess.
Yep.
I was hoping you could tell some of the viewers a bit about how you ended up in the presidential slot for the Green Party in 2004.
Sure. You know, I was, I helped to found the Green Party of Texas back in 1999, hot on the heels of my participation in the World Trade Organization protests in Seattle of 1999. And I was inspired by the Green Party because it was the only political party that I had found that represented both my progressive political values and had an absolute bright line prohibition against corporate money, and said we will not solicit nor will we accept any corporate money ever, period, end of story. So I got excited about that, helped to form the Green Party. The Green Party then put Ralph Nader on the ballot in 2000, overcoming draconian ballot access laws, which, by the way, ballot access laws exist only to make sure that neither Greens or Libertarians ever get a chance to take their message, or
When you
anybody
say
else.
ballot access laws, you mean the hoops you have to jump through and like money you have to contribute to get on the ballot?
Just to get on the ballot. Do you know that it was easier to be on the ballot in the elections in Afghanistan and Iraq in the last election cycle than it was for Greens or Libertarians?
Yeah,
I believe it.
I totally believe it.
So the Green Party had to collect in Texas, just to be on the ballot, we had to collect 76,000 signatures in 75 days. And those signatures had to come from people who did not vote in the Democratic or the Republican Party.
So you had to get more than 1,000 signatures a day from people who were not registered Republican or Democrat.
How about that?
I think that's
Quite a
generally like
challenge.
the pool of people that we need to turn the tide here.
There's no doubt. And you know, one of the things that I have seen is that more and more principled Democrats realize they've been lied to and sold out by the Democratic Party leadership. Likewise, more and more principled conservatives are realizing they've been lied to and sold out by the Republican Party leadership.
With the last 8 years of Bush and this year of Obama so far, I think it's shattered a lot of paradigms.
I think so, and so I'm actually quite excited to see that so many of the principled conservatives, principled liberals, radicals, and people who are basically nonpartisan are realizing there's something profoundly wrong and we got to do something about it.
So you weren't born in California. You said you grew up in Texas. So
Yes, sir.
how did you end up in wonderful Humboldt County?
Well, you know, it's like where they say where I'm from. There was a woman involved.